jump to the sky turns to a rider kick.
Hi everyone, I'm Colonel Gerda, and today we're taking a look at the GX-88 Soul of Chogokin Vehicle Voltron. And this thing is huge, as you can see, but how I got this figure is actually kind of a tragic story. I originally wanted to get the GX-40R God Mars, and when I got it, it was defective, and it broke as soon as I opened it up.
Ah, creep!
And I got a replacement a few weeks later, and that one also had some bad QC issues, and it was broken.
Ah!
So I was furious, and I got a full refund, and I was able to buy this. Now, I really hope that this doesn't have any issues on me, but let's take a closer look at the packaging. Starting at the top corner, you got the Soul of Chogokin logo, and it just gives you the name of the toy, the GX-88 Vehicle Voltron, which just says Voltron I, which I find strange. And here we got the Voltron logo, Defender of the Universe. Beautiful shot of the figure with the sword. And at the bottom we got the Bandai logo and Tamashii Nations. On the side, got another shot of the toy, as well as the name. On the back, it just has all the components and everything it can do, and it's jam-packed with features. I can't wait to play around with this thing, but I gotta be really careful with it because this thing was nearly $400 when I purchased it. Has a lot of cool stuff around here, all the different teams and everything. On the back, on this side, you got, I believe, is the Air Team all combined. Voltron, Defender of the Universe, yada yada, all the, and you got the other teams here. On the top, you got, as you can notice, it actually has the Japanese name Dairugger 15, and it has that at the bottom as well. This is a really big box, if you haven't noticed by now. So I'm gonna just show you, because this is actually a cover. This whole thing is actually a cover for the real box. Now this is only available in Western releases with this cover variant, which I'll show you what it looks like without the cover. And here's what the packaging looks like with the cover removed. And it's pretty similar to the cover packaging or the text on the cover, but it's now all in Japanese mostly. Here we got the Japanese name for the teams: Q-Rugger, Kai-Rugger, and Rick-Rugger. And here we got another shot of the toy, GX-88 Dairugger 15. And it's pretty much the same here, pretty identical. And all the stuff that I showed earlier is now in Japanese, which I sadly cannot read. And the same shot of Dairugger 15 / Vehicle Voltron. Now it's time to open this up. Now, I'm a little bit nervous because right here, I did not open this prior, but when I got this, and by the doorstep, it was already open up like this when I took it out of the package. And I'm a little nervous that something might be broken, because this is what happened to the first copy of my God Mars figure, which I no longer have. But here goes nothing. And here we have the contents out of the box. First off, you got these instructions, which we'll take a look at a little later. All of the accessories. And probably the coolest part, I just love the way these were packaged. It's like this retro style, and this is how a lot of old school Golion / Chogokin figures were packaged back in the day. It's just really cool that they did this to homage that. And now I'm going to take all these components out and just see how cool they are. And here we have all of the vehicles unboxed in all their glory, and this is one hell of a set. It is so big, and it consists of the air, sea, and land team. Let's start off by looking at the components of the air team. Starting off with Dairugger 1, also known as the Command Jet Explorer. It's a cute little jet. There's not really much to say about it other than the fact that it forms a head for Voltron, and it also looks a lot like Dynamach from Dynaman. It has landing gear, but the wheels don't really work and they're just stationary. Not much to say other than that. As for diecast parts, I believe the cockpit is because it feels a little bit cold, but I'm not really too sure since there's a lot of plastic and it's so small. Next up is Dairugger 2, the Strato Weapons module. Yes, that's what it's called. It's primarily made out of die-cast metal. This whole main body is die-cast, and it also has this part up here which is actually made of very flimsy plastic, so you gotta be careful when handling. It's got these little it's got these missile pods on the sides, and it has treads which sadly don't work. And this kind of looks like, I don't know, to me it makes me think of a Jawa sandcrawler if it was set in an ice terrain or something, but that's just me. But I really dig these old school sci-fi vehicles in general. Dairugger 3 and 4 are the advanced recon helicopters, and they're nearly identical to one another. They're very cute looking, and they have these pathetically small little rotors or propellers, but they're interchangeable with alternative ones. They come off very easily, but not too easily either. You can replace them with these larger ones, which make them look more realistic in a way, because I have no idea how these things would fly in real life if they had propellers that tiny, which I think looks pretty cool. Or if you want, you can replace them with these alternate propellers, which only have 2 blades. And I believe this is how the vintage toy looked. I'm gonna just put it on the other one too, to give you an idea. I don't think any of these look bad on these helicopters, but personally, just for the charm, I like to have the default tiny propellers on. They both have landing gear, but mine are currently folded away, so it'll be more convenient for transformation purposes. But they don't have functioning wheels either. They also got little windows here on the side, but they kind of look a little crooked. There's not really much to say about these other than that the cockpits are made of die-cast metal. So let's move on to Dairugger 5. Dairugger 5, the Falcon fighter jet, is a very basic looking sci-fi starfighter looking vehicle. And I'm trying to find I believe the wings the wings are plastic. This whole body here, this whole section here is made out of die-cast metal. It's really cold and nice to feel, as usual. And there's a subtle amount of detail with some paneling done to the jet, as well as on the bottom. And the bottom is like completely flat, and it bears a striking resemblance to, I believe it's called the Masky Jet or Masky Fighter from Maskman. Basically the Red Ranger Zord from Hikari Sentai Maskman. It looks very similar to this, so it makes me wonder if they took inspiration from that as well. I get a lot of Sentai vibes while looking at Vehicle Voltron / Dairugger 15, so there has to be some influence taken from this. And it does have landing gear, as you can see, and you guessed it, the wheels don't actually work, so they're basically communism. And now it's time to combine the air team. And here we have the Dairugger, or the Strato Fighter if you live in the US. And it's not bad, but when you look at it from the top, you can clearly see that it's just part of the top torso and head for Vehicle Voltron / Dairugger. Also, when attaching Rugger 5 onto the top here, as you can see, it's not fully in the middle. And that's because I had a really hard time attaching it that way, and I'm just so scared that it's gonna break in the future. I really wish they could have just made this magnetic or something. I just feel like there could have been a better way to secure it, because I heard on the original toy this part of the toy broke very easily. So that gives me a lot of anxiety whenever I play around with this thing. Rugger 5 is also laying on top of a red button, and when you push it, it launches the little fighter. But I do not recommend doing that for obvious reasons. Not really all much to say other than that. Now let's move on to the C team. Now here we have Rugger 6, which is also called the communications module. I believe it's called that because there's supposed to be this radar thing that's supposed to flip out, but I could never seem to get this open and flipped out, and I'm not going to risk breaking this toy since it costs $400 total for this entire set. It's got these nice chrome turbines on the side and little treads that don't really roll or don't really work. From what I could tell, the diecast parts are these cockpit areas, and maybe, and I mean maybe, these side areas too, because they feel a little bit cold, but I could be wrong. 7 and 8 are these cute little submarines, and they got a surprising amount of detail on them. And they're very nice looking. As for diecast parts, I believe these cockpits are diecast, and there's also some diecast hinges here, and that's more for like transformation. And there just isn't really that much to say about these guys. However, this one in particular, look through that hole. What does that look like? Yeah. In America, these guys are called space probers, but let's be real, they're just submarines. Rugger 9 and Rugger 10 are the multi-wheeled space explorers, and these two are easily my favorites in the set. Not only by the way they look, but they both have working treads, and you can roll them around. But I wouldn't recommend doing this too much because some things might get caught in there, but it's really cool to play around with. Not that you'd want to play around with these toys too much in the first place, but you know what I mean. Now, they have these chrome pieces which are removable and can easily get lost. So when you transform everything into Vehicle Voltron, there actually is a place to put them, but I'll get to that later. These guys are entirely made of die cast up on the top here. They're really heavy, and it's just so satisfying to touch and hold. And that's what I love so much about these Chogokin toys, or any diecast toy in general. Now that we got the whole C team covered, it's time to combine them. The Q-Rugger, or the Aqua Fighter. This is easily my favorite of the wacky team combinations because it looks like an actual vehicle that could exist in real life. Not that we have anything like this in real life, but just as a functioning vehicle, you know what I mean. Moving on to the land team, here we have Rugger 11, or the Jet Radar Station. There's not really much to say about this one, and at first glance, it doesn't look like it has any die-cast metal, but still got the heft. Because of that, And then when you flip these panels down, you got all this internal die-cast, and that's for transformations, so we'll get to later. And it's got this little radar and this little thing that kind of goes up and down. And it looks like it has missile pods. I have not watched the show Dairugger 15 or anything, so I wouldn't really know the context of this. I'm thinking of watching it in the near future, though. And it also has these treads that don't work. 12 and 13 are the rotating personal carriers. They're very neat looking sci-fi cars, but at the same time it's just so obvious that they're just rolling hands. And the way these are designed really reminds me of Gokai Formula from Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger, where it was like a Formula 1 race car and it had a fist disguised as an engine block. So I can't stop thinking about Super Sentai whenever I look at this set. On the back, they're just open, gaping holes. It would have been nice if they had doors that folded down, but it's not a big deal. Also, the wheels are made of a reflective chrome, which is nice. And last but not least, here we have Rugger 14 and Rugger 15, or the all-terrain space vehicles. Now, I absolutely adore these little vehicles, honestly. If I was on the team, I'd probably want to drive one of these personally, because I'm a big fan of all-terrain vehicles in general. Like when it comes to Jeeps, ATVs, etc., I just go nuts over them. But the whole top is made out of die-cast metal on each of these. And this one has what looks like a big bumper in the front or something. And the back has these almost looks like a trench in there, as well as here. And that's for the combination. And there are also these little switches that fold up. And also, they got nice chrome in the front. These really remind me of those die-cast cars that Jada Toys or something would make, and they'd sell them at like a convenience store or somewhere. That's what these really remind me of, and they're really nice and heavy. Now it's time to combine the land team, but I'm gonna warn you, it gets pretty stupid. The Turbo Terrain Fighter, or the Rugger, and this is what I was talking about. It's just a bunch of stuff stacked up on each other, and it just looks ridiculous on all angles and sides. I like to call this the carrier mode, or the carrier formation, because these two vehicles are carrying all the stuff on top, and I can just transport all of this to another base or something. And now that we've looked at all the three teams, it's finally time to form Voltron, or at least Vehicle Voltron. And at last, here we have Voltron. And this robot mode is just beautiful. It's just so well designed, and the engineering is great despite being very simple in transformation. I mean, these guys barely even transformed. They just stacked up on each other for the most part, but everything went smoothly except for a few areas. Attaching these legs were a little bit tricky because when you want to take them off this part here, you're going to have to pull really hard and twist them carefully. And that's not really fun to do considering how expensive this figure is. Also, at least on my copy, I feel like the figure doesn't hold together on the top half. Because if you were to grab it like this and try to lift it, it kind of looks like it's going to come off. See, it just did. And I nearly had this whole thing collapse onto the floor when I was showing it to some friends of mine. So if you want to lift this figure, always carry it by the legs. And like before, this jet doesn't like to go fully in the middle. It's always somewhat to the sides, and I'm always scared that something could break. So I'm always as careful as possible when I do it, and it always ends up being slightly to the left or right. But besides those problems, this figure is still gorgeous and just might be my favorite figure of all time in my collection. And I just love how the feet are these cars, much like Turbo Ranger Robo, and the chest makes me think of Great 5 from Mask Man. For articulation, the head can swivel, but it can't really go full 360. The arms can rotate 360. They have a butterfly joint right here. Get a bend, a swivel, a bicep swivel, and the hands can also swivel as well. And what's really neat is that the hands can actually open up. It's a little hard to do, and I don't like doing it that often. Kind of hard to see, but that's how it looks. The hands can also extend. The arms can also go out like this. The figure is able to crunch up and down. It's hard to see because of this jet blocking, but there's like a hinge that allows it to move. Swivel at the waist. The skirt panels can be folded out. And the legs have a lot of articulation. The legs can go do a forward kick that far, a bend at the knee, and they can extend it. I already had it extended during the transformation sequence. And also you get a thigh swivel, and you got some side to side movement at the ankles. And the spread on this guy is just awesome. Check this out. Watch this. Bam! This is just crazy. Except I can't get too far with this leg, but I'm not going to go any further because I am not going to risk breaking this guy. Soul of Chogokin is well known for its posability on the figures, but for a figure of this size and the fact that it can combine and yet still able to have all these poses, I was not expecting it to be this posable. It's almost as posable as my Soul of Chogokin FA figures, which are known for their super articulation because they took out all the gimmicks of their combining counterparts. And coming from someone who's collected a lot of Sentai mecha, the articulation on this thing is a godsend. For all the accessories, you got this beautiful display stand with some assembly required, and it can practically store nearly every single accessory. But once I'm done filming this review, I'm probably going to put all these accessories back in the box. As you can see, Ruggers 9 and 10, they're little chrome bits, these chrome little pieces. I have them displayed on here. And there's a bunch of other crazy stuff. Now let's get right into it. Also here it says Voltron, but you can also exchange it with the Japanese name Dairugger 15, which I have stored in the box right now. Our first accessory is this long and all chromed out blazing sword. He can hold it like so. He gets a double-bladed spear, as well as a small variant. You get this piece, which you can have this electromagnetic whip accessory attached to, and it has this piece right here that clips into the hand. Now, unfortunately, I will not be able to have him hold everything in this video because I'm just so scared of this thing toppling over, and I'm just being extremely careful as I film this. Okay, I just found one of the hands is open, and it can actually hold this accessory here, and the handle and the little clip thing can plug into the hole there. So I'll be able to show you this, and this is how he holds it. So let's just pretend that he has this hand equipped and it can hold it like so. You get a different whip which has a nice bendy wire onto it, but I'm pretty scared of this snapping eventually, so I'm just gonna be very careful and just leave it as it is like this. You get this really tiny little accessory which you can plug onto the back of Voltron's head and replace the part that had the landing gear. But again, I'm not going to do that in this video because I'm so scared of this thing tumbling over. For alternate pairs of hands, you get a pair of fists, open hands, weapon holding hands, and hands for holding propellers. And speaking of propellers, you either get these jagged spiky propellers that are energized, which are very sharp by the way, or you just get these regular looking ones which kind of look like peace symbols. And there are 2 of each of these that I'm holding right now. As for the final accessories, you get these blue things which can be attached to Bandai Tamashii Nation stands, and you can plug in the propellers onto as well to make it look like Voltron is throwing them or something. A very cool concept, but I am not opening this up because these are so small and I can't afford to lose anything. Now for size comparisons, here we have the Galaxy Megazord, the Soul of Chogokin Dairugger 3 FA, the GX-88 Senpujin, the Super Robot Chogokin Hiryu and Enryu, and last but not least, the Black Series Darth Nihilus. And now that we pretty much looked at everything this guy can do, and as well as the accessories, it's time to look at the instructions. Ooh. These instructions are really cool in this Soul of Chogokin line, especially with the newer releases, because you pretty much get this whole backstory. It's all in Japanese, unfortunately, and you get some original artwork as well as concept art. Get all of this cool stuff here, and you even get to see some of the toys that were made back in the day. Here are all their anime counterparts of the components. That's the original combining toy. And then from there on, you get some very detailed, colorful instructions, and it's pretty straightforward from here as to what everything can do in the set. And I think these instructions are really cool. So overall, I think this is a fantastic figure. However, it has some flaws, like some parts coming off a little bit too easily. Like in between filming, I was lifting the figure and one of the thighs just randomly popped off, and that scared the crap out of me. And there is the chest right around here that pops off easily too. But as long as you're really careful with the figure, it's unlikely that's gonna break anytime soon. And if you're willing to spend $400 on anything in the world, this is the guy you should spend your money on. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification button. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the flip side.